The notorious Conor McGregor is back at it again. The former UFC champion has always been known for pushing the envelope and towing the line when it comes to trash talking, but he might have finally taken it too far. His controversial tweet got the attention of former champ Daniel Cormier, saying Conor McGregor absolutely crossed the line with the horrific deleted tweet, and he believes it's a cry for help. But before we get into the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel with notifications on so you don't miss any of the new videos we post. So, following the loss of his fight against Dustin Poirier after suffering a broken leg at the end of the first round, McGregor's enemies wasted no time rubbing the loss in his face. Khabib Nurmagomedov, in particular, tweeted, "Good always defeats evil. Very happy for Dustin Poirier." Poirier has made a name for himself as one of the UFC's most upstanding fighters, while McGregor has made a name for himself as the UFC's biggest villain. The contrast between the two is glaring in the way they carry themselves and approach a fight. Khabib and Poirier have had a mutual respect for each other since they fought in UFC 242. Khabib and McGregor have a long-standing rivalry as arch-enemies. Khabib has always said that he appreciates the way Poirier approaches the fight, as opposed to how disrespectful McGregor can get in the wake of one. Khabib, not being much of a trash talker himself, likes the respect Poirier gives his opponents. It wouldn't be much of a stretch to call them friends. Well, why is this relevant? Khabib's tweet served two purposes. One, yes, it's a slight jab at McGregor and his bad guy approach to the game, but first and foremost, it's a congratulatory tweet to probably one of Khabib's favorite fighters. It's all about showing respect to those who deserve it. McGregor, of course, couldn't let that slight jab slide. The notorious villain of the fight game decided to clap back with a tweet targeting Khabib's late father, tweeting, "COVID is good and father is evil." Abdulmanap Nurmagomedov died at age 57 after a battle with COVID-19. Khabib's father was first admitted to the hospital in April of 2020 before being transferred to a military hospital where he subsequently tested positive for the coronavirus before suffering a heart attack and undergoing emergency bypass surgery. The older Nurmagomedov was placed into a medically induced coma twice and remained in serious condition for a while before losing his battle with COVID and subsequently retiring Khabib. The UFC world was saddened by the news of Khabib's loss. Everyone gave Khabib their condolences, even McGregor. The two were famous rivals, and they hated each other's guts, but in the wake of Khabib's loss, he tweeted, "The loss of a father, a coach, and a dedicated supporter of the sport. Condolences and rest in peace, Abdulmanap Nurmagomedov." You would think that the subject would have been off limits even for McGregor, but I guess people will say anything if they're riled up enough. Daniel Cormier, a close friend of the Nurmagomedov family, immediately took offense and had something to say. On his ESPN show with co-host Ryan Clark, he said, "I get shock value, and I get trying to get people to talk, but way too far. To the point that I immediately called Khabib last night and said, 'Are you okay?' asking him if he's okay after having to see that, especially with no ability to do anything about it again. He spoke to my kids at my wrestling program the other day and said he was never happier than when he got to fight McGregor on the day, because for so long he wanted to get his hands on Conor and beat Conor up. Well, he can't do that no more because he's not a prize fighter anymore. So now he just kind of has to swallow that. Way too far. Honestly, when Conor does stuff like that, it's hard to understand how there's still this mass amount of people that support that type of behavior. Even though McGregor deleted the tweet, the damage was done. McGregor has received an onslaught of criticism for his recent trash talk targeting Poirier's wife Julie, both before and after their fight. Cormier has talked about how he's always had a problem with McGregor's trash talk, but referencing the dead was just way too far. Cormier continued to blast McGregor's actions on his show, saying, "After the fight with Dustin Poirier, a lot of people questioned whether or not Conor McGregor was reaching to try and get in the head of Dustin, reaching back to a time where he had trash talk that could affect people. It didn't seem to work against Poirier. I feel like from him talking about Dustin's wife to now Khabib's father, he is just taking it way too far. When you're dealing with death and COVID and all these other things that we've dealt with over the last year and a half, that's all off limits. We talked about wives and families being off limits, but when you're talking about a man's everything, Khabib's dad was his everything, and you're talking about him being gone today due to something that has been so terrible for our entire world, you use that in a sense to get back. The most messed up part about the situation is that it wasn't done in the heat of the moment. McGregor tweeted about this the week after the fight. A lot of fighters can do some serious trash talk in the heat of the moment, but it seems like every time McGregor trash talks, it's premeditated. It's like he sits on his insults for a while and lets it stew before he decides to tweet whatever he's going to tweet. Cormier believes it's a cry for help. With all the money in the world and the massive amount of fame McGregor has, it's not hard to believe that he's no longer in the right state of mind. Cormier believes that he needs someone to reshift his focus and get back to a better place. McGregor has made more than enough money in his career. What started off as a grind for him has turned into more of a hobby. The problem with McGregor is that he's lost that hunger for victory. He's playing a role and has lost the focus he once had. McGregor came from humble beginnings, but since his big paycheck started to roll in, it's like his mentality isn't win or go home anymore. He prizes himself as the UFC's villain and is okay with that. With Khabib retired, there's nothing much he can do in response to McGregor. Even after being confronted by paparazzi, Khabib responded several times with no when asked if he would return to the octagon. He's made it clear that he has no desire to fight without his father, despite missing the competition and the adrenaline rush that the sport provided, and admitting that he thinks McGregor crossed the line with his tweet. Khabib wants to remain retired. Since retiring, he's claimed that he's escaped from a prison. He's gone on record and said, "I'm living the life of an ordinary person, not the one of a professional athlete," Nurmagomedov said when speaking to UFC Russia. "I think living the life of an athlete is somewhat close to being held in a prison, because every day he has to do exactly the same thing. Train, rest, then train again, then rest. It's like living in the same mode at the same pace, not slowing down. Once you slow down, you are no longer a champion. So, I have just released myself from this prison in a way." Although, it's not like he's completely disappeared from the fight game. He still trains and helps partners and students when he can. After all, he spent his entire life in the fighting sport. It would be hard for anyone to completely walk away from that. So I guess this jab by McGregor is just something he has to swallow. It's a fight of words and dignity now, and Khabib has always been known for carrying himself above the petty aspect of the sport. Maybe some of his close friends still in the UFC can get revenge for him. I know many fighters have lashed out at McGregor for the tweet. There's no shortage of fighters that want to give McGregor a good beating, but then again, McGregor has been on quite the losing streak lately. Maybe life is doing all the beating for him. Even so, the tweet has been deleted. It's most likely that even McGregor felt bad for crossing the line. His ego has taken a beating in the past year with all his losses. Maybe Cormier is right. This could all be a cry for help. McGregor has shown that he is human in the past, and all this crossing the line might just be a way to get people's attention. What do you guys think? Is McGregor doomed for failure, or is there a chance he can redeem himself? Maybe someone needs to put him on a boat and ship him out to the nearest vacation island. I have a feeling that McGregor just needs a solid day at the spa. Maybe take a yoga class or something. Take a salt bath, meet a monk, get zen, you know? And with that, it wraps up the video. Thanks for watching.